How's trouble? Let's talk about today's lesson, 7.5, sine and cosine. Everyone should draw this generic right triangle. And if we're basing it, we'll start with A. From A, this would be the opposite side. This would be the adjacent side. And this would be the hypotenuse. So you want to start off by just labeling that. We'll base it off A. Just know for B, opposite and adjacent are swapped. So here's adjacent, here's the opposite of the hypotenuse. This is for A in particular.
I'm just waiting.
Guys, okay?
Okay, nope, we don't.
What up, Mr. T?
You're on one screen and that's about it.
Can you not hook it up to the TV? You guys are too technology that's not hook it up to the TV.
I don't know how to do that with this Apple TV. Oh, actually, I do.
If it's a Chromebook from the school, it should have an HDMI on something.
Mr. T, you're on the TV now.
Sweet. Back to almost normal. Tomorrow we'll be back to normal, hopefully. All right. So 7.5 sine and cosine ratios. Now, tangent, as I mentioned from last time, is opposite or adjacent. Now we have two more. Sine, you pronounce this sine, even though it's spelled sin. Sine of theta is a unique ratio. It's going to be the opposite over the hypotenuse. This you definitely want to write down. So opposite over hypotenuse. And cosine. It's, even though it's written cos, you pronounce it cosine of theta is going to be adjacent over hypotenuse. These are absolutely necessary to write down for your notes. So make sure you get those down. With that in mind, let's do each part. So the sine of A, the opposite of A, you have to look at the opposite side, which is across. That is CB. So CB divided by hypotenuse. Now the hypotenuse, regardless what angle you're using, regardless what corner of the room you're standing, will always be the hypotenuse. So the hypotenuse is always hypotenuse, which means it's going to be AB. The cosine of A, which is now what's next to A, what's adjacent to A, AC over the hypotenuse, which never changes. It's always across the right angle, AB. Now let's talk about B. In B, this one's the opposite, and this one's the adjacent. I'll do it in blue to mix it up, so we don't get confused too much. This would be adjacent. This would be opposite. For sine, we have the opposite over the hypotenuse, So AC over AB. So the opposite side over the hypotenuse side. And cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. The adjacent's over here now. So that's CB or BC over the hypotenuse, which never changes, AB. A unique relationship occurs where the opposite trig function of the opposite angle matches each other. So the cosine of A is the same as sine B, and the sine of A is the same as cosine B. Sines and cosine, you could feel they are opposite, and angle A is the opposite of angle B. That's the other corner. So if they're both opposites, it's kind of like a double negative. Both being opposite goes back to normal. So the double opposites are equal to each other. Small side fact. I went through that fast. Any questions on labeling, identifying the fractions themselves, anything?
No, we're good.
All right. So let's go to a couple examples and then I'll teach you on the calculator. So number one, I want the sine of A, the sine of B, the cos, or I'll keep it in the same pattern. So sine of B, cosine of A, and cosine of B. I want everyone to try this one out themselves. Everyone try this out by themselves. Good news, none of these will be simplifiable. So you don't have to worry about simplifying this one. Everyone try this one out, and I'll show the picture above if it helps you out. So 15, 20 more seconds. Try this one out. Figure out which ones are your opposites, which ones are your adjacent, which ones are hypotenuse. Big point, hypotenuse never changes. All right. Usually I would ask you like who got the answer. Kind of hard to do this on computer, so I'll just go over the answers. Starting at A, sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So 63 over 65. Can't simplify that. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So that's 16 over 65. Can't simplify that. No, can't simplify that. Sine of B, now I'm standing on the B corner. I'm standing on corner B. Opposite of B is 16 over 65. And adjacent of B is 63 over 65. Again, you could have said, hey, I know sine of A is 63 over 65. So you might have just go right to the end and say, I know cosine B must be 63 or 65. And vice versa. So you could use that to your advantage. The next one, everyone try. This time, notice is a different position. Sine X, cosine X, sine was the other one, Y, cosine Y. The picture might be flipped, but you should be able to handle it. Again, think about it if you're standing on the corners. Okay, again, I would ask, but kind of hard from here. There was some simplification going on, so you got to keep your eyes open for that. So for the first one, sine of X, opposite of sine for sine. So it's 40 over 85. Now my issue is 40 over 85. Let me put this somewhere else. 40 over 85 can be simplifiable. I could take out at least a 5 for sure out of both of these. So if I took out a 5, that'll be 8 over, being slow, 15, 16, 17. 8 and 17 have nothing in common, so you could circle it there. Now, I'm teaching you this so you can save yourself time. Wait a second, sine of X is 8 over 17. If I were to flip it to cosine, and if I were to flip it to Y, cosine Y means this one would also be 8 over 17. Use that to your advantage. Use that to your advantage. Next one, cosine of X, so that's adjacent. So that's 75 over 85. We could take out a 5 out of here. So we're talking about 15 over 17. Use the advantage. Opposite of cosine, opposite of X will be sine of Y. So this is 15 over 17 also. Now, anybody has any questions of that, or anyone got it so wrong, they don't know why they got it wrong and needs me to explain any part of it. They're so off. They're like, how do I had an 85 on top somehow. I don't know what's happening, Mr. Tobo. I'm shaking. I don't care what you ask. Tell me if you need help. Okay. So we're going to the calculator section. Very important. I'll post this on the YouTube too, so you always have the calculator section as a tutorial. So if you have a TI 84 or 83, even if you have a TI, the normal, like the smaller one without the big screen, if you have your phone calculator, if you turn it sideways, you'll get these 3 letters, sine, cosine, and tangent. These 3 right here. Let me use some annotation to help. So these three right here. Sine, cosine, and tangent. Now, before you even start plugging in numbers, this is the most important part. You're going to go and click on mode. Mode is right here, next to second. You're going to click mode. Now, for most of you, it's going to have the third line to say radian. You see how my fingers are covered radian. We don't work in radians in this class. We work in degrees because the angles you have are in degrees. So we're going to click right on that and click enter. Now, degrees should be highlighted. Degrees should be highlighted. If you move off the option, degrees should be highlighted. Once you're done, you click clear. So you get back to the normal screen. Now, when you start the calculator again, it should stay in degrees. You won't need to reset it. The only time you need to check it again, if some reason their battery pops out or you do a hard reset on your calculator. If you don't know how to do a hard reset on your calculator, don't worry about it. So it's extremely important you have it in degrees mode, which is why I have to actually teach you how to use this. If you're using your iPhone or phone calculator right now, it should be on the top leftish in the area. Usually they put it there. It might say just RERAD, like rad. Click that and it will turn to DEG degrees. That's the hard part / the little thing that you could forget and makes you lose points is not good looking. So what do we do here? Very straightforward. Sine of 17. All that means is that I'm going to click the sine button. S-I-N. I know it's spelled sin, but it's sine. Sine button of 17. Type that in. Click enter. You're going to write your answer to 2 decimal points. So you're going to write your answer to 2 decimal points. Round properly. So 0.29. Next one, cosine 6/9. Close parenthesis, enter 2 decimal points. 0.36. Sine, it's just 0. So you put in 0. Turns out your sinus 0 is 0. Last one, cosine 60. Cosine 60. Oh. Cosine 60 should be a half, if I remember correctly. Yeah, 0.5. So cosine 60, 0.5. Remember, mode, then degree. Mode, then degree. Anyone has any questions with the calculator? I know might not everyone have the TI-80 with them right now, but your phone calculator should be able to do it also if you rotate it horizontally. All right, tomorrow we're going to go over equations and solving missing parts with sine and cosine. So I just want to show a preview. On this page, you see how we have x here? We're going to use sine and cosine to find what the x value is. And we'll use tangent too. Tangent has those too. So that is our goal for tomorrow. All right. Tonight, you're going to have homework. I'll post it right after this. For our class, in terms of teaching, we are done. You're free to log off and have a wonderful day.